Okay, we're live. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a newsy type episode. I think this is episode 65, but again, who cares about numbers? And we just have a whole bunch of news today. Nothing like really stands out as this is the main topic today. So let's just get right into it. And we have Tom with all the hard-hitting news. Let's start over. Your mic was muted.
Sorry about that. Howdy, everyone. My keyboard loves to mute my mic. It's fantastic.
So what do you want to start with first?
Just because I know we're probably going to take a little bit on this, let's talk television.
I love my TV. I can go to Yahoo Weather, and it will tell me the weather somewhere where I haven't programmed it yet.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Sometimes when you're watching CNN, tweets will just show up at the bottom of the TV.
That wasn't the show?
That's just CNN.
Yeah, you can't use the CNN. I was going to say, you have Wolf Blitzer reading tweets. That's a show.
Yeah. Now, so smart TV is, if you've got one, you know that originally there was some novelty, like, oh, look, I can browse the web and use some really bad apps. And that's about it. Microsoft actually tried. There was a company that I think Microsoft ended up buying. I want to say it was called Web TV, that tried to do the same thing back in late 90s, early 2000s. Totally flopped. And history has a way of repeating itself, and here we are with the smart TV craze. Now, whether or not these are here to stay is an entirely different debate, but I'm here to tell you why you shouldn't buy a smart TV.
Well, before you get into shouldn't, the problem is I really think, one, you can't find a smart TV, and if you can, it's going to cost you more than buying the equivalent smart TV, whatever, equivalent.
Yeah.
Which is the problem.
You'll pay a couple $100 more buying a smart TV than buying just essentially a monitor. That's all I want. That's all most people want, is a big monitor that's pretty decent resolution, 1080p at least, and it's got enough plugs in the back so you can hook up your Chromecast and your Roku and your game consoles and maybe even your PC if you want to, do some PC gaming on the TV. That's really all people want.
Well, let's take it a step further, because I know, Tom, you don't have TV. You don't have a cable subscription. I do.
Not.
And what people don't realize is, and maybe you do and whatever it is, but what people don't realize is that you're bound by the cable remotes. So you got your TV, you have this really cool remote that you can do gestures on, and you can, it's like a million buttons, and you have to read the manual to figure it out. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to call Fios or Cablevision or Comcast or Time Warner, and they're going to hand you a box and their remote. Yep. So now the remote you just gave is now going to go away. So if you want those smart TV features, which essentially you have to do is change the input, and then get up and get that remote. So now you have two remotes. And if you're gonna dual remote it, you might as well do it the right way. Find the smart compatible like set-top box that you want that does everything for you, and be done with it.
Yeah, and we could go on and on about the annoyances of smart TV, but this isn't television in 30 or CES in 30 or gadgets you should buy in 30. No, this is security in 30. We're going to tell you why your smart TV is spying on your family. No. Now, you can take that clip of just me saying that and put it on the news and have this really crazy story. But no, it's first off, they're annoying. Second, these preloaded apps, they basically never see updates. The OS your smart TV runs, it's probably some version of Linux, some version of Android, some version of FreeBSD. Those things aren't going to get patched anytime soon. Samsung's probably got the closest model where you can actually replace the box but even that is a hefty, expensive purchase that you just don't want to go through.
Well, the funny part is that a lot of them say wireless adapter sold separately.
Right.
Because and you look for it, and if you can find one, it's probably $70 or $80. So you can connect it to Ethernet, but then they tell you at the store, are you going to use the smart TV features? Well, not really. And they say, don't worry about it. So now you really essentially have a dumb TV, but you're wasting processing cycles trying to keep this updated.
Yeah, and they're impossible to upgrade. You rely entirely on the manufacturer. They could be filled with security holes that will never be fixed. And a TV is not like a laptop or an electronic appliance or something that you get and then 2 years later you chuck it and you get a new one, or it breaks down and you get a new one, or anything. No, TV you're going to be with for at least 5 years. I've had my TV for 6-ish, 7-ish, and it's going strong. I love this TV. But you don't want to keep something that's got a whole bunch of security holes around on your network, especially, on your network shared with the rest of your computers, with your storage, with, everything. And we actually caught wind of a feature, and I'm giving the air quotes for the audio version, a feature built into some of these smart TVs that can help direct advertising towards you, which is another annoyance we'll get into here in a bit.
Well, the first part was it was one of those fear-mongering stories. Is your TV spying on you? More at 11. And at 11, when you watched it, what happened was on Samsung TVs, they have an always listening feature. And they said, what happens if you're telling all these secrets and everything else? Samsung is stealing that and selling it to third parties and this and that. And when I initially heard it, I said, oh, you probably have to hit a button. You probably had to say some button, like the Gary Busey button on the Amazon Fire TVs that you had to do. And then it activates the voice. And then reading into it, no, you actually don't. You actually can say whatever you want. And then there was a Samsung comment leak today that basically said, no, what it does is it listens for keywords. So you have to say the specific keyword first, and then it sort of activates. And then it listens. But either way, you can turn all of this off. But, if you turn it off, then you won't get the updated weather feature, and you may not want that.
And, I don't think we have any proof that they're taking the conversations or keywords and selling it to advertisers. In its most innocent state, this will act like the Kinect on the Xbox. We can say, Xbox, turn on. Xbox, change the channel. Xbox, I would like to watch some Netflix now. And it goes and does that stuff. It's a nice little convenience feature that Samsung might have built into their TVs. Whether they're selling keywords to advertisers or not, we don't have any proof either way. But I'm gonna go with the more innocent version, the less fear-mongering version, and think, it's probably just for voice control. But it doesn't change the fact that they have the ability.
Well, let's give Samsung. Well, here's the thing: Samsung is so large as far as divisions there. I would say, you know what? They do phone security fairly well. I mean, they use Android. They put their Knox software and this software on it, and I would say, maybe they just ported it over to the TV. But then they're probably so large that they probably have not. It's probably a separate division that doesn't have enough security people, because who's really going to update their TV?
Right. Yeah, no one does that. And probably the most annoying thing about these potential security holes that are roaming around your home network, touching all of your other computers, is the fact that I was using one at the store the other day. So I was like, I've had my TV for 6 or so years. I wonder what's out now. I wonder if I should go buy one. So I was playing with the smart TV. I didn't really want it, but I wanted to see the feature set. And I go to change the channel, and in the little area where it shows the number and the name of the channel and the program you're watching, I get an ad for a store. And it wasn't like a floor model thing. It wasn't like just something on the TV channel. It was advertisements built into the TV. I was like, okay, that's weird. Go to change the volume, same thing happens. A different advertisement. It was hooked to Wi-Fi. So when you're using your TV, advertisements are just popping up everywhere. That's a world I don't want to live in. That's a TV I don't want to buy. And frankly, I don't think you should either.
It's you're buying. Remember, you're buying a TV. They don't need to sell you ads. They can jack up the price on the TV.
Right. I realize televisions are a really cutthroat, low margin market where you sell a big TV for thousands of dollars and you might make 3 or 4 cents on the purchase. But this is the wrong way to do it. If your business model is suffering, you need to mark your TVs up higher, even higher than the competition. Yeah, I would love to buy a TV from a manufacturer that came forward and said, hey, we just make really big monitors, and that's it. And they've got these plugs in the back, and there's no Wi-Fi. It's just a big screen. I would love to buy that. It's like buying the can of beans, and the white can and the black letters, it just says beans. I want something simple, to the point, and have it work.
And we did do a show on In30, and we may do it again, about the different set-top boxes and which ones are good and which ones are bad. You just find the one that you like and hook it up.
Yeah.
If you like the Fire, I've had them all. I really like the Fire because I'm an Amazon Prime member. I really, really like the Roku, and we have a couple of Chromecasts running around. So whatever you want, we can get. And you know what? Yes, they're battling for the inputs, but again, it's a problem that you're going to have to deal with anyway.
Yeah, and I can guarantee you, a company like Google with the Chromecast, a company like Roku with the Roku, and a company like Amazon with the Fire, they're going to be a lot more apt to keep these set-top boxes not only functional, but free of security holes, free of bugs, and updated with the latest features, especially if you're paying $100 for a device. I know Google is starting to prep the Chromecast 2 for release whenever they finish developing it. But the Roku 3 has been out for a couple years now, I want to say, and it's going strong. And I absolutely love my Roku.
Yeah, the Roku 3 is great. The 2, we have a 2, and I would tell you the Roku 2 works really well. Just the Roku 3 is just so much better. The non-line of sight remote and the headphones jack on the remote. Spend the extra couple bucks and get a Roku 3. Wait for Woot. Woot has it once a month for $65. Get that one.
Yeah, and there's, as we've talked about before, bringing in security vectors into your home network, just like when we talked about setting up a separate guest network, bringing security vectors into your network is dangerous. You should watch out for that. You should try to avoid it whenever possible. And if a box falls out of spec, you can spend $100 to go to their next competitor or get the updated version of the set-top box instead of buying an entirely new TV on a Wi-Fi function you can't turn off. But what if you've already got one of these things? It's easy. Unhook it from your network. Unplug the Ethernet cable. Disconnect it from Wi-Fi. It's pretty easy to do. Just let it sit there and be a dumb TV. Go buy yourself a real set-top box.
I mean, you remember, you have one. I mean, whether you got it, it's a terrible set-top box from the manufacturer, from wherever, Time Warner or Verizon or Cablevision. I mean, they have the same functionality. And to be honest, when was the last time you really used the set-top the smart TV features? If you're tech-savvy like us, probably never. Your parents probably have used it once, or it's like the blinking light, the blinking VCR. They probably have never used it. Go home and turn it off for them. And while you're at it, go turn off overscan. Go turn off any of those brightening features. While you're at the TV, I think that's an okay thing to do. I don't think your parents, if you go, we're going to make the picture better, are going to complain. But let's move on. We used half the time on this, and there's a ton of story.
Yeah, so the next story we're going to talk about, and then this one will be quick, is we are starting to see CryptoLocker be adapted to websites. So web servers that have security holes are being infected by malware that does the same thing as CryptoLocker, except it replaces all of your website content It encrypts it, of course, and then replaces it all with a ransomware page saying, "Hey, we want you to pay us $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, just a whole bunch of money, way more money than we saw in the consumer version of this malware." Make sure you keep stuff patched. On any server platform, you can set automatic updates to take care of this stuff for you automatically. And on top of that, if you get hit by this thing, you should have backups. You should have an image of your server. You should have, at the very least, the website contents stored somewhere. Even if it's on your local computer, even if you just throw it on the same backup drive you've been using. Or put it in a TrueCrypt container, put it in Dropbox. Just back it up somewhere.
A couple of years ago, all my websites, it was all in the same domain, that used custom themes got hacked, and I had to listen to some like techno music and had some hacker name on my screen. And not that any of my websites are worth anything or of any value. I did have a backup, so it was quick to restore from, but it gave me a bad taste in my mouth about themes. So this is why we use the standard WordPress themes, because the themes weren't updated. So I would reinstall it, it would work for a day, and then come back with the same thing, because what they were doing is they knew the vector, which I didn't, and I'm not going to sit there, there's no content on it. I'll just go from a backup.
Right. So, yeah, that's been hitting.
Would SSL prevent this?
No. Most often this is because of a misconfigured web server or a misconfigured website with a security hole in it. There are a couple ways this could happen, but SSL probably wouldn't have prevented any of them.
So just make sure your WordPress plugins are updated. WordPress is automatically updated, so it's just make sure the plugins, the themes, and go from there.
Yep.
Oh, next, or anything else on this?
No, nothing on that. We have got. Let me see here. You
have the car or you have the steel mill?
Let's do the steel mill, because this one I really want to get the story in. Okay, we have heard of online attacks. We have heard of malware causing physical damage to infrastructure before. It's happened, and it's not just a thing that happens in movies. It happens way more often in movies, and the one confirmed report we have of it happening in reality is Stuxnet, when it overspun the Iran's nuclear refinement.
That wasn't like a little thing. That was a major,
yes,
burn to the ground thing.
Yes, that was huge. It just essentially destroyed and took offline Iran's nuclear enrichment program, or uranium enrichment program. Totally messed it up. Now, this wasn't something caused by script kiddies or some random hacker guy. This was malware put together with a bunch of 0 days by a couple governments with the specific intention of destroying this one facility. Now we have what appears to be the second confirmed attack that's actually had a physical impact. In Germany, there's a steel mill. The company has gone unnamed, and there's very little specifics, but it has been confirmed that a steel mill in Germany has suffered catastrophic damage, massive damage of, I think they say in here, millions of dollars worth of damage.
Well, is this like, is this a variant of Stuxnet? Do we know? Stuxnet was open source. Remember, Stuxnet was open source.
Right. Well, it wasn't open source. The source was decompiled and reversed, which is a little hard. It makes it much harder to understand, and it's not like, oh, hey, here's the source code. I'm going to build Stuxnet. It's they found Stuxnet in the wild, pulled it apart, analyzed it, did a whole bunch of really technical stuff to try to figure out how the whole thing worked, and then mapped it out. And they said, yeah, we think roughly this is what Stuxnet does, which is really, it's a whole lot of work, and it's really impressive. No, I don't think the name of the malware is in this article. Again, the details are light, which I hate, but...
Watch it, we find out that it was run by a Windows XP server in the back room.
Yep. Running an outdated version of Java.
Yeah, Well, I mean, look, like you said, there's very little information, but it's causing physical damage,
Yeah, there
and
was
that's a problem.
so the blast furnace, it got into these control systems. This wasn't like, oh, hey, it just infected some random server and the server blew up and therefore the facility had damage. No, no, no. This was malware specifically designed to get into blast furnace control systems, which are not like regular computers. They're built with a purpose. They're usually built on weird, archaic manufacturing control systems, which aren't running standard operating systems most of the time. And it was designed to essentially lock these things up. And so the engineers couldn't shut down the blast furnace in the proper manner, causing massive amounts of damage. And this is pretty huge. It doesn't say here that anyone got hurt, so that would be, the best outcome for a situation like this. But it does make you think, what are computers hooked to? What do they control? I know at one of the previous jobs I've worked at, they did some manufacturing, and engineers, wanted to use the machines at night or check on the status of the machines at night so they didn't have to run into the office and check to make sure there was no problem. It would save them a lot of time, would keep them from driving into the office. It would save everyone. It would be so convenient. But we had to be very careful because these machines had the potential to cause bodily harm. If they were misused, it could cause bodily harm. We had to do a lot of research to make sure that this couldn't happen physically, couldn't happen from anyone on the remote network. Luckily, in this case, it ended up being a button was the only thing that could do it, and there was no API. There was no computerized way to trigger this from the control systems that were network facing. So everything worked out for the best. But we should really think about this. It happens all the time in movies, and people laugh it off. Oh, look, this person hacked a building, and it blew up. Okay, that's far-fetched. But what if someone, hacks a bunch of IV pumps in a hospital? What if those IV pumps have morphine or another dangerous drug? What if they, what if they hack the power company, and the worst thing they do is they shut down power? Right? That's really annoying. That would make a lot of people angry. But it could happen. It could really happen. And this isn't to scare anyone. It's just you should think about what computers are connected to, what they're controlling, and more importantly, how we're going to secure them.
Ready for the segue? Segue of the century?
Oh, yes.
The segue of the century. Tom set it up beautifully. So we're talking about, yeah, it's not going to happen to a building or anything, but what about your car? So the story came across a few weeks ago, and we shrugged it off. I don't even think we mentioned it. The progressive OBD2 dongle apparently could be hacked. Turns out, if you read the story, so it's fear-mongering 101. Your whatever insurance little dongle thingy is hacked, and all these bad things can happen. Turns out you need physical access. You need to be there. You need to be near the car, and then you have to open the door. You essentially have to steal the car to do this. So we shrugged it off and said, you know what? It's proof of concept. Turns out now I can start my car if I have OnStar from anywhere in the world and everything else. And yes, apparently not necessarily OnStar, but all these internet-enabled cars are just bad business. They just didn't do the security right. And yes, now you can hack the car and turn it on and everything else.
When it comes to the electronics in a car, and again, this is rapidly emerging, rapidly changing, my information could and probably is outdated because I don't build cars. That's not my day job. With that in mind, from what I understand about electrical computerized systems in cars is it's one local network. Not like a local network like we're thinking of, oh yeah, there's a router and everything's hooked together with Ethernet. No, because I could fix that stuff and I know nothing about cars. I can tell you there's no Ethernet cables that I can see inside of my car. But the security is virtually non-existent. There's nothing that the brake tells to the car's internal computer that says, hey, I'm a brake and here's my certificate or my public key. I'm going to sign this message to prove that I'm the front left brake. Right? It just says, oh yeah, you're totally a front left brake. Whatever, I totally trust you. And that's fine as long as the components aren't networked, which typically they haven't been. As we're starting to see more electronics be built into cars, more always-on radios, more internet connectivity, we have to really stress to auto manufacturers, and they're starting to learn this, that these systems cannot be tied together in any way. It's bad enough if the GPS in your car malfunctions and tells you to go the wrong way, right? That's annoying enough. But what if the car has a security vulnerability, there's a DDoS attack against your particular vehicle, and all of a sudden systems stop responding, or your car's check engine light comes on. It says, the oil is burning, or the car's overheating or something, and it forces you to take it into the shop or off the road. These kind of things, they've happened in, not in any real substantial way, but they've happened in laboratory tests, right? And they've been fixed. We need to make sure that keeps happening, because cars are only going to get more complicated, more computer controlled, and we need to make sure to build security in from the get-go by default. Because as we've seen with other things, unless we get security in the front door, right there at the bottom level, it's going to be so hard to basically put the genie back in the bottle.
Well, how did we start? We started with keys, right? We started with metal keys, and people were just not hacking them, but copying them. And then they went to the transponder keys.
And those were easily copied.
They were easily copied. Now they're going to like the Bluetooth thing that on my end, on the consumer side, the annoying thing is every time you lose the key, you can't just go to the locksmith. You had to you had to go to the dealer and pay an exorbitant amount of money for a copy. And again, you can just smash the window and just jumpstart the car. I mean, that was always the answer. But I don't know if people know this, but the OBD2, that's that little port like by the brake pedal underneath the steering wheel. When you get your check engine, they stick a computer up there and it tells you what the code is. Well, all that information all the car's information goes to those ports. So, I mean, there are companies that sell a Bluetooth device that will connect to your phone and give you all that. Tracking location and braking.
Really cool.
Thing. And that's great for you, but now your computer, what's it called? It's internet connected. Your car is internet connected. Yeah, sure. While I park in the driveway, I would love for this to connect to my computer. Download it to an Excel spreadsheet. Or, you know what? Send it to my insurance company because I told them I'm not going to speed, and now they're going to give me a discount because of that. Think about that. They're sending information to the to the insurance company. How safe is that? Or what? Right. How are they encrypting it?
How are they encrypting the tunnel? There's so many questions. And now the good news is, in cars, even cars as old as mine, and I've got, it's not ancient, but it's a car from 2010. When I take it into the shop, sometimes, and I know because I asked them about it, sometimes I would drive it off and all my radio stations would be reset. And I said, hey, why did this happen? Not mad, just curious. Why would these reset? It said, oh, we flashed your car with new firmware. Its computer got an update. I'm like, oh, of course. You updated my car's computer. That's cool. Now, I don't know what the car is running. It's probably an embedded system of some kind, and not like FreeBSD or Ubuntu or Windows 95 or anything.
If you have a Ford, it's QNX. It's like Ford is single-handedly keeping BlackBerry afloat.
But it's, car manufacturers aren't blind to this. At least the majority of them aren't. Right? Flashing a car's firmware does happen sometimes to fix bugs or sometimes even to make it more efficient. I know Tesla has given over-the-air updates to the vast majority of their cars to make it more efficient or to unlock new features of the car. Or there's a bunch of cool stuff that can happen with this technology. We just have to make sure to use it responsibly and keep it safe. And there's probably the last thing I want to say, because I know we're running out of time. What the majority of these stories have in common is they were stories about tech stuff that were fear-mongering. We don't want to do this on this program, and we want to make you aware that fear-mongering happens in the news all the time. So be aware of it. Watch out for it. Know your Nest thermostat is not going to kill your family by baking you alive. In order to load a custom version of Linux on it, the hacker has to physically break into your home, steal your thermostat for a couple hours, then reinstall it. Not exactly easy, and you should probably be more worried about the person breaking into your home. But, just keep an eye out there, and things aren't as dire as they seem.
Before you bring something into your house, ask yourself, have they done the security on it? The answer is probably no. Should you be scared? Like Tom said, not really. But just be aware. When was the last time Cuisinart did any sort of security? They make blenders and toasters. So when they're doing something, nobody's really thinking of the other way. So just be aware of that.
Do you really need your toaster on the internet?
Well, I don't know. 10 shows ago you said you did.
Well, I guess that's true, but I'm the kind of guy who would install Linux on his toaster.
You would flash the firmware and get root access.
I would.
You would actually sudo make me a sandwich.
I would, and it would work, and it would be glorious.
So, okay, well, we're out of time, so unless there's anything else important, I guess we'll see you next week.
Sounds good.
Bye.
See you
Bye,
guys.
everyone.